Hello, hello, Periscope. I wanted to hop on Periscope and show you what I am really excited about. I'm kind of on a squash kick, and I used a recipe from my Martha Stewart cookbook that I think I got this when I graduated high school because I was such a nerd and wanted a Martha Stewart cookbook, but it is a very good cookbook. And in it, on page 209, it describes how to make baked stuffed spaghetti squash. And I'm not going to do half of what she suggests, but her first set of directions are some good ones. It says, place a whole spaghetti squash in a large stock pot, cover with 2 inches of water, cover and bring to a boil. Simmer until it is tender when you press with your fingers, 20 to 30 minutes. So that makes the squash soft, and it makes it so that you can cut it without feeling like you're going to end up cutting your finger off. So it's a lot easier this way. So I thought I would show you how I cut it now that it's boiled and soft, and how I clean out the seeds and scrape out the center and put it in this nice casserole dish and bake it. It's pretty good stuff. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. And if you're just hopping on, my name is Jenny, and I blog at domesticwildflower.com, and I'm gonna cut up this spaghetti squash. So I'm gonna scoot you down so you can see more of the squash and less of my forehead. Ooh, sorry. Don't get car sick, Periscope. Okay. So it's really soft and wet, and that's why I have this towel here, but it's okay. It's okay. It's really tasty stuff. You cut off the ends first, and the ends have some really soft, yummy deliciousness. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. And, oh yeah, it's super wet inside, but that's okay. So I'm going to scrape out some of this spaghetti squash from the ends and plop it into my casserole dish, which is the same dish I'm going to bake it in. I bake it at 450, I think, says Martha Stewart, which is what I will do. Here's the other end. So I'm going to scrape some out. Squash is one of those weird vegetables that I think a lot of young people don't try, or maybe not just young people, but don't want to try and cook because it seems like, whoa, this is going to be super hard or gross, or they have squash kind of has a bad rap, I think, which is why I wanted to choose it. So on the inside, you can see that, right? Yeah, perfect. It looks soft and it's full of seeds, like a pumpkin kind of. So I'm going to get a good big spoon. Thank you, son. My son just gave me an acorn. That was nice of him. So I'm going to scoop out the same way you would clean out a pumpkin, kind of, the seeds. And yes, I bet I could cook them up, but that's not what I'm doing today. I'm going to scoop the seeds out with a spoon. Ooh. Hi, son. Hold on. Hang on, babe. Okay, so here's my squash. Sans seeds. So it's called spaghetti squash because the strands of it look like spaghetti. So it's kind of the same color and same thing going on as real spaghetti the pasta. Woo! So I'm scraping the spaghetti strands of the spaghetti squash with a fork and putting it in a casserole dish. And the only thing I did with this dish was put a little olive oil in it before I hopped on Periscope, so it's oiled up so it doesn't stick. But this is already like halfway cooked because I boiled it for about 30 minutes. And if you've just hopped on, my name is Jenny, and I blog at domesticwildflower.com, and I have a toddler pushing the tripod. And stop, son. And I'm going to prop you up this way. Perfect. That's fine. And I'm making spaghetti squash. And I boiled it first in water. And now I'm scraping out the insides of the squash. So I have this super hard outside right here. Or not super hard, but like just as hard as a pumpkin probably. And I'm going to compost that. And I'm scraping out the insides. That's what the inside looks like. I'm going to scrape out the seeds the same way you would clean out a pumpkin, pretty much. I guess when you clean out a pumpkin, it's not cooked, so sorry if that's not a very good example. Okay. If you have any questions, I'm looking at the phone, or yeah, at my phone, so I can, I'll try and answer them as best I can. So now I've cleaned out the seeds. I'm going to scrape out the insides. Okay. Okay, son. Okay, Periscope. I'm gonna pour some apple juice. Okay, son, hold on. Here you go, little bug. Okay, back to squash. Okay, so I'm scraping with my fork. Scraping the spaghetti-like strands of the halfway cooked squash. If I come across any seeds, I'm keeping them aside. Okay, almost done. See, pretty fast, not that hard. With this, I'm going to mix a couple things before I put it in the oven that make it more of a meal and less of a vegetable, like just as a plain old boring squash. It's going to be really yummy because I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of regular from the grocery store standard Parmesan cheese, a 1/4 cup per one squash, or even more than that, I guess, more than a 1/4 cup. And just kind of fork it around in there. I'm going to add some salt, some garlic, salt, and pepper. And something that I wrote a blog post about, and it's going to be published in a couple weeks, is this idea of people chopping up and saving herbs and chopping them up and putting them in a ice cube tray and freezing them covered in olive oil. I tried it because I've heard about it and thought, oh, that's stupid. That wouldn't work. But I am wrong because it works really well. And we're going to use one of my giant cubes. It's not super giant, but a couple inches, like probably 2 inches by 1 inch of olive oil and basil because the recipe calls for olive oil and basil, and I didn't have any fresh. And ta-da, I have some frozen. So I'm going to take you with me to the stove, and I'm going to turn this on and get this melted a little bit. Does anyone out there in Periscope world have any questions about squash or anything simple cooking related? Okay. So in hindsight, I see this might take a little bit of time to defrost or to melt, but probably not a lot. I could have probably done this while I was scraping, but that's okay. I'm going to get my garlic, salt, and pepper and season my squash real quick. So that's what my spaghetti squash looks like. So seasoning, seasoning, seasoning. Okay. So other than the appearance, there's nothing spaghetti-like about the squash. I know when I was a kid, I thought that spaghetti squash meant that it was like, had tomato sauce and was like spaghetti, but it's not. The original Martha Stewart recipe says that you can chop up tomatoes and add it to this, and I just am fresh out of tomatoes, or I would. So I have a 1/4 cup Parmesan cheese, some salt and pepper, and some quickly defrosting or quickly melting olive oil and basil that I froze in an ice cube tray. And now I'm just warming up at warp speed on my cook stove. And I'm going to combine the olive oil and basil with the hi Periscope. I'm going to combine the olive oil with the squash and just kind of stir it up and put it in an oven at 450, which I just have warming up right now. And bake it for, I like the top really good and crispy, so it will be like 35 or 40 minutes, but that's it. It's pretty simple. Pretty easy stuff. Does anyone have any questions? Now that I'm looking at the screen. Okay, so I'm almost done melting my frozen cube of olive oil. In fact, I think the rest of that I can break up with my fork. I really love hopping on and sharing simple cooking stuff because I feel like people who don't cook think that you have to be like a super, super amazing cook to cook good stuff. And you don't. You don't have to be a super amazing cook to eat well and to cook easy things, because lots and lots of things are pretty easy, including spaghetti squash. So I'm breaking up that frozen basil with my fork and stirring it up. And when it bakes up, it makes a really nice, like, kind of a crust on top. It's delicious, and it's really pretty, too. This, I guess, maybe on the phone looks kind of ugly, but it's not. It's very pretty. Okay, so that's it. That is my fast and super easy spaghetti squash supper. Are there any questions before? Thank you so much, Periscope. We'll see you soon.